Talking about how often police see road rage escalate into violence. The similarities to this latest shooting remind a grieving mother about the nightmare that happened almost 2 years ago when her son was shot and killed during a road rage incident.
Eyewitness News reporter Roxie Bustamante joins us in the studio with the story and how this is becoming an increasing concern for drivers on the road. Roxie.
Deborah and Aaron, according to AAA, aggressive driving is extremely common across the country. And just last year, 80% of drivers reported that they experienced anger or road rage behind the wheel. Now, for one San Antonio mom, last night's road rage shooting hit too close to home.
The pain I carry every single day, I would not wish this on anybody. I pray no one else dies at the hands of the one who killed my son.
It's been 18 months since Lori Roach's son, Aaron, was killed in a road rage shooting.
He was gone in a matter of minutes after he texted his sister. He was thinking about work the next day.
She says Aaron was riding in the passenger seat heading down Huebner Road when a passenger from another car started shooting.
And my son is now forever gone because of that person's road rage.
Lori says when she heard about the road rage incident that led to a shootout in the parking lot of All Stars last night, she had chills. It happened about 4 miles away from where her son was killed.
Every time I hear about a road rage case, I'm thinking, could that have been the person? And now with this one being so close to our neighborhood, right around the corner practically, it's even more, oh my gosh, this is so close to home.
She says she relives her son's death every time she hears about a road rage incident and sees the violence increasing on the roads every day.
Whenever there's aggressive driving going on around me, my heart skips a beat. It scares me. And those of us, like my son was, innocent, people who are driving down the street need to be aware that this can happen to them. It can happen to anyone. Anyone. Doesn't matter who it is.
Rocha is still searching for the person who shot her son. Crime Stoppers is offering up to $5,000 to anyone who gives them a lead in that case. You can find more details on our website, KENS5.com. Roxie Bustamante, KENS5 Eyewitness News.